Hello, everyone. It's Carrie here with Kickstart Your Business Summit 2026. So excited. We've got lots of stuff going on. Make sure you are registering with that QR code up there at the top because that's where you get all the free gifts. So coming up right away here, we're going to talk about the price of silence in your business or in your corporation, what that's really costing you. So you're going to want to stay tuned. Grab a pen and paper. We're going to be back in 10 seconds. All right, I am back with my good friend Elizabeth Bennett. Woohoo! She is a TEDx speaker, a leadership and communication consultant, and the host of Conversations Matter TV show. Thank you for being here with me today, Elizabeth. Let's give her a big round of applause.
It's great to be here, Carrie. Thank you.
Awesome. So what have you brought with us today? I know you're going to talk about the price of silence. So let's get right into that. I want to see what that's all about.
Okay, well, let's just get to some things that we're going to talk about today and some of the objectives that I have. And it's to understand the framework that I use when I'm working with businesses. So part of it is to embrace the 5 strategies of dedicated listening. And as participants in this particular summit, you will also have the opportunity to have a hands-on piece of the 5 strategies of dedicated listening, because that's my gift for you for today. We're also going to talk about leading courageous conversations for growth and identifying the cost of silence in organizations. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. And also my guidance with you to build high-performance teams through communication. So here's the bottom line for people. What would it look like for you if things were going really well in your business? If everyone was really productive, if profits were through the roof and you were delighted about that? What does that look like for you? Take a moment to think about that and reflect. Now, when you're looking at that part, are you there? Is that something that's really happening in your business? Or are there places where things feel unsettled, where maybe the culture is questionable? Maybe you've been having some challenges with the folks that you work with, or your team in general, or distributors, or whatever kind of business you're in. Have there been places where things don't feel like you're on top of them, or that you're feeling like there's something missing, or I'm really annoyed with this person, or I need to have a conversation, I'll put it off for later? That's what I want you to think about at the moment. Because here's what I know to be true right now. Here's the big, beautiful elephant that's taking up a considerable amount of space, either in your head, your heart, or physically in your business. And that is that we have a collective PhD in avoidance. We're afraid to have those conversations. We, skirt around them. We say, oh, that's just what he's like, or oh, that's just what she's like, rather than getting involved with that person. Because what we really need and what people really desire for themselves is to be heard, is to be valued, is to be acknowledged for the work that we do. And oftentimes that gets missed, or that goes astray, or we just make assumptions that everybody's okay. Because the typical 4-letter F word that we use is we're fine. Well, we know darn well that people are struggling with things. Bullying is rampant. Mental health concerns are through the roof. Isolation is on the increase. People don't feel like they're being acknowledged or valued. And so we need to be able to have those conversations and say, hey, I've noticed that you haven't been yourself lately. What's going on? It doesn't cost anything to have that conversation. However, if we look at it from the flip side, if we don't have those conversations, then we get separated from the connection, from the collaboration, from the productivity, and in some cases from profitability. Because if we don't have those conversations, those are the things that separate us. So let me take you on a little bit of a journey about that. Silence isn't a neutral state. It's a choice. And we're making the choice not to engage in something that we feel is really important. Or you're sort of putting it off for the moment because you think, well, I'll talk about that later. Or, it's not the big deal at the moment. So let me give you an example of that. I'm currently working with a company, and this person happens to be a new leader in this company. And so he's trying to, and part of the leadership team, I've been chatting with both of them, but I'm focusing mostly on the manager at the moment. And he's trying to make things work and trying to be, everybody's buddy, and because he doesn't want to step on anybody's toes and he doesn't want to do anything out of the ordinary, he's trying to work things out. Except what's happening, and he shared some of these things with me. So what's happening is, he has a couple of staff people who aren't showing up to their meeting on time. And so what he's done is, I'll talk about it next time, or that's not a big deal at the moment. But what ended up happening in that time frame is that person who's showing up late knows full well that they are. And they're also bringing work with them that they're doing while they're in that meeting. And he's noticing that too, but hasn't said anything. Meanwhile, what he's heard from his co-leader is that what she's saying to him is, you know what, we need to talk about that because that's not right. And so he shared with me that the next meeting that they went to, the next staff meeting they went to, he said out loud to everyone. So there are 25 people on this team. And he said out loud to everyone, I'd really like that everybody show up on time and just be focused on what we're doing because the work we do at a staff meeting is really important. Now, those 24 other people didn't need to hear that message because they show up on time, because they are focused, because they do engage. And in the meantime, that person who shows up late continually and nobody says anything is the least likely person to hear that message. And so that's the space. Those are the places of silence that we need to address things. Because let me help you understand this. We're losing people because of it. We're losing people in terms of productivity. We're losing people because they can't be bothered, or they don't know anymore, or they don't feel connected to their business. And as it turns out, that rest of that team from that company that I'm working with currently is now losing trust in that leader because they don't feel supported. They figure if that person's allowed to get away with it and other things are happening that he's not addressing, then that leaves them wondering and worrying whether they're really even valued in that workplace. And so in some of the conversation that I've had with him, I've encouraged him to take a look at those, even if he feels that they're insignificant things that he needs to address. It's better to do that in that 5-minute conversation or in that 10-minute conversation than it is to allow that to continue and then be in a place where now he needs to discipline that person with a letter or conduct, whatever the business has in place for that. So that really makes it important. We need to be in a space now in our businesses, particularly as CEOs and founders and managers in business and so on. We need to remember that our message and what we say and what we do, we're getting paid for. And if we're not getting paid for it, so as an example, I used to be in the field of education. And as a school leader, the expectation was that I was getting paid for my opinion. And so I better have an opinion about what's happening in school when I'm talking with teachers or so on. And now as a business owner, my opinion also counts because that's what I'm doing to help direct people, moving them forward. So when I look at opportunity, we need to be able to have conversations. And yes, some of them are going to be hard, and some of them are going to be awkward, and some of them are going to be, I'm not sure what to say, I don't know what to do, and are they going to like me, or so on. This isn't about being personal about it. This is about information. This is about facts, about what's going on at the moment. So when you see something where it is an opportunity to be able to transform that conversation, to be able to move forward, because what you're doing is you're clearing that space for further opportunity, for more productivity. And in some cases, the profitability increases too. Because if we don't value the people that we work with, whether they're distributors, whether they're your teammates, whether it's a working partnership or so on. And when we look at the bigger scheme of things, if we don't have conversations in business, they have an impact in people's families and in people's lifestyles. So it's an opportunity for us to be able to step in to those conversations with courage, to be able to say, look, from my standpoint, here's what I'm seeing happening. And here's the impact when we don't show up, when we don't have those conversations, when we don't do that, so that you're framing it in such a way to be able to help that other person understand your perspective, understand the impact, and then how to be able to move forward. So the CARE framework is designed for people to be able to connect with others. And when I say that, that really is about establishing conversation, establishing relationship, and giving people an opportunity to know where you're going, where you want things to go. And certainly if they're a really good team member, that they'll know that they're part of making that difference for others, whether you're in sales or whether you're in counseling or consulting, whatever it is in your business, that gives you an opportunity to establish a relationship with people. Now, I get that people sometimes, they're linear thinkers and they don't do the feeling or emotional piece, but rather they're giving information. Well, we need to also acknowledge people's feelings and acknowledge their perspective. And when we do that, that gives them an opportunity to feel heard, to feel valued, and to be able to express their feelings too. And I get that there are different kinds of personalities. I get that there are different kinds of, personality types, or if you're doing Myers-Briggs, or you're doing colors, or you're doing, any of those performance or relationship or, different kinds of measurement tools in order to find out what kind of person you are. Those are going to be important too, to be able to understand how to relate to other people. And then it gives you an opportunity to reflect on the responses that you give, as well as the responses that person who you're speaking with. And that's part of the connection too. So these aren't necessarily standalone pieces from the framework, but rather they connect with each other. And what that does in the end is it helps you to engage. It helps you to establish a relationship. It makes it clear that you are working together with that person. And at the same time, it gives you space too to empower that person to take on the next role or the next activity or the next project or whatever it is that you happen to be talking about. And that way, from the framework, it helps you to really be powerful in your space without being, authoritarian, or without being any of those things or those feelings or those imaginary, or in some cases, world leader kind of attitude. This is about your business, about your connection with people, about your creative and empowering space to be for yourself as well as for the people that you work with. So the 5 strategies of dedicated listening, it's also something interesting that I've noticed through the work that I do as a leader out in the world with folks right now in communication and conflict management and mediation, all of the skills that I work with and have, that we need to take pause. Because what I'm noticing out there in the world is that we have lost the art of listening. We are busy, and I use the term generally, but if you look around in our cities, in our neighborhoods, in our provinces or states or wherever you live in the world, that we have become incredibly positional. And we think that our way is the only way. And really, it's a way. So when you're having conversation with people, it's really important to allow them to express where they're coming from, to understand their position, to understand what's going on for them. And I'm not talking about, you have to be a therapist, but you need to take the time to really listen to understand. And when I talk about that in the 5 strategies of dedicated listening, it really is understanding versus judgment. So you need to be able to move your judgment aside and really be intentional in listening and understanding where that person's coming from, so that you're also allowing that time to be curiously engaged, to understand, and then to be able to say, okay, so what can we do to move this forward, right? So you're thinking in your mind, okay, so what I'm hearing you say, or from your perspective, I'm getting this, and you're using some of those words back to them so that they are acknowledged for what they're saying. Allowing intentional time means that you either, put down your cell phone, or you close your laptop, or you move away from it. Because here's something that I've noticed that happens quite frequently. People are, on their keyboard, or they're looking at the time, or they're looking at their watch because they're supposed to stand or sit based on, your steps in the day, or you're busy, moving papers around and you're looking at that. And you're supposed to be listening to the person who's sitting in front of you. And oftentimes people say, oh, well, I can multitask. I can listen to you. But what you're doing is you're taking that time and that focus from that person who's there. And you're disrespecting it really by not taking the time to simply, put your stuff down, move your chair if it needs to be, so that you are intentionally listening to that time, to that person, and giving them that time. Because that way, that establishes more of the connection. It makes them feel like they're really being heard. Is it going to be the worst case scenario if you move away from your computer for a few minutes? I think not. In fact, that might be a time where you leave that stuff beside you, or on the desk, or on the computer, and you turn and you become really intentional with that person. Now, when you do that, that gives you an opportunity to really listen, to really hear, to really be engaged with that person, because that's what they need and want. No, it's not a therapy session, and you can be intentional by asking the question, how is it that I can serve you? What is it that we need to be talking about? So that you are clear in terms of that too. And it's a time for reflection. And in empathetic listening, you're re-engaging. You're perhaps sometimes paraphrasing, if you're familiar with that term. Or you're saying some of the words that they've said to you, and you're saying, so when you say this, is that what this means? So that there's clarification there. Because if we continue to be in the space where we're not listening, then people will not feel valued. They will not feel heard, and they won't be as productive or feeling like they should stay with you in your business or as a partnership or as a distributor or whatever the dynamic is that you're together. So that's really important, is about how we show up, what our intention is, and how we're listening. And then what we can follow that up with as part of the 5 strategies is active feedback. So when you say something like, okay, let's check back in a couple of days and we'll see how you're doing. Or how's that project going? Give me a timeline as to, the next time we should touch base. Or in a day or two when you follow up with that person and say, so how is it going? How can I help you? How can I be of service to you? What does it look like in terms of the timeline? Are we going to reach the deadline? So those are the kinds of things. And then following up, but also giving feedback, because we can't continue to work in silos. We can't continue just to say, okay, well, I'll go off and do my work and so on, and then never have feedback, because feedback isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a space of learning. It's a space of moving forward. It's not failure like we've been taught in the past, but it's really about being intentional. And all of these steps are about intentionality, because we need to be connected with other people. That's part of why we're here in the first place. And that's a little bit of a takeoff from Brene Brown's work. It's about connection. It's about why we're here. So why don't we celebrate it? And why don't we engage and provide feedback and have conversation? Because when we do that, then it becomes really powerful for us to move forward in our business. You see, people get stuck in that place of, oh, well, I hate doing sales, or I hate having those conversations, or I hate all that. It's not about, it really is about conversation. And we need to be able to step into our conversations with courage. Because when we do those things, then there's a possibility of the retention rate increasing rather than decreasing. Because if we lose people, it costs us money. Because now we have to train somebody else, or we have to find a replacement, or we have to do whatever. If we have those conversations and things are placed on the table and we talk about what that needs to look like in order to move us forward, then there's a greater chance that we will keep people. It also provides an opportunity for people to engage in their creative juices so that it makes the work more playful and joyful and understanding and having fun with it. We're not meant to be in this world to have drudgery, to say, oh my God, here we go again, and I got this. It's a place of stepping out of that box and being able to be free to have innovation, to be creative, to come up with new ideas, to be able to share that with your team so that it becomes way more powerful and people engage. And then there's more productivity. And then in the end, surprise, you get profitability. It creates as well a culture where people want to go to work. I had a conversation today with a group of folks. I was at a mastermind today, and one of the people in the mastermind was talking about the whole idea that her partner is at work with their shoulders way up because they're so tensed and they're so panicked and so frustrated with the culture that's there. Well, can you imagine going to work every day and feeling like this and not wanting to be there? Or do you want a place where it's authentic, where people get to share ideas, where they get to listen, where they get to engage? They provide feedback and they provide the opportunity for everyone to grow and be part of that team. Those are the things that I talk about. That's why I'm so passionate about being able to have these conversations with you. And I get, we don't have time here to do that. But I want to encourage you, if you have quick questions, or if you've got something that you want to discuss, or a time to to say, hey, Elizabeth, I could really use your help in my business, or have a conversation, or, or coach you personally or with your team, then I'd be delighted to do that. And here's how you can get in contact with me. You can book a discovery call on my website. You can email me if you wish and just say, hey, Elizabeth, I saw your presentation and I'm really interested in how we can work together. Or could you give me some kinds of ideas about, feedback, or how do I listen better, or so on? Because all of those things are part of what makes us connected, and part of what makes us human. Because there are times when people feel disconnected, when they don't know what to do, when they don't know how to have those conversations. And I'd be delighted to help lead you with courage so that you can step into your conversations with courage.
Awesome. So that gave us a lot to think about, and different ways to have those conversations with courage. And I can see how passionate you are about this. That's amazing. So let's just talk about for a minute, with the summit, we are offering, like every speaker that comes has like gifts that they're giving to those that are participating along in the summit. You get the gifts by registering using the QR code at the top of the video there. So I know that you have a video about the 5 strategies of dedicated listening that people can learn. It's a download, is it? Is how does it work?
Yeah. This is what it looks like. So you can download this, and if you happen to be in the neighborhood where I am, you can actually get real life copy.
Awesome. Okay, so you just go up there and you can have that download. And then, of course, we have a VIP gift as well. And the VIP gift is some consultation time you're going to do with people?
Yes, a free 30-minute.
Awesome.
Yep.
So 30 minutes is a great time to get together and actually talk through some situation that's happening, and she can give you some guidance. So that's something to look forward to. So you get that again by clicking through to the link up there, the QR code, and registering, and then the VIP comes up. And we've got many different people that are offering different VIP gifts throughout the summit. Some of them are worth a few $100s. Some of them are worth a few $1,000s. So you're definitely going to want to check that out. I think there's about $10,000 worth of value back there right now. One of them is even a 32-hour plus course on how to sales mastery course is up there. So all of that is available by clicking on that and then taking the VIP upgrade. Guys, you're going to want to watch along, because there's more videos coming up. There's more people sharing, and these videos are going to be up afterwards. So you can still keep watching them and get more information. You can reach out to Elizabeth. We'll put her contact information into the chat as well. And I just want to thank you again, Elizabeth, for coming out today and meeting with me. And let's just put our hands together and say thank you.
Thank you to you too, Carrie.
Awesome.